Nick, do you think Dylan Brooks is good or he ain't shit?
Straight to it.
Huh?
They need him. The NBA needs him.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you, do you niggas need Dennis Rodman sometime too? Do you think he good or is he ain't shit? That's what I'm asking you. I didn't ask you if Memphis need. I know he's a good fit on Memphis. If you at the park, are you picking him?
Oh, no. I'm not taking him on my, like on my drill team. Well, I might, because you need somebody that's going to play dirty.
Yeah, if you trying to go nut, you pick.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. I'm going to let it go because we're doing the interview.
So given the tumultuous history shared between the two, I don't think anyone ever foresaw Cam'ron and Mase not only squashing their beef, but coming together to do a sports show that would eventually be valued at 8 figures. So today we're going to take a quick look at the history between these guys and how we ultimately got here. So hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and let's get to it. Born on August 27, 1975, Mason Betha Jr., aka Mase or Murder Mase, was born in Jacksonville, Florida. With 2 brothers and 3 sisters, one of which is his twin, he was raised by his mother after his father, whom he was named after, walked out when he was just 3 years old. Eventually, his mother would move the family to Harlem, New York, but by the time Mase was 13, he'd be sent back to live with relatives in Florida because he was getting into trouble and his mother wanted him to stay away from the violence that plagued the area. And it was in Jacksonville where Mase would begin to attend church regularly. He'd go back to Harlem just 2 years later, and he'd attend school at the Manhattan Center for Science and Mathematics. Notable attendees of this school are Dame Dash, Mekhi Phifer, Sanaa Lathan, and of course Cameron Giles, aka Cam'ron, who was born about 6 months after Mase on February 4th, 1976, just to throw that information out there. Now, Mase himself has gone on record saying that he and Cam knew each other since they were little kids around the age of 6, but they may not have actually become friends until a little later. Fun fact, Cam'ron had already befriended Jim Jones and knew Dame Dash around this time as well. If he actually knew Mekhi Phifer around this time also, then Paid in Full would have been an insane full circle moment. But anyway, now Mase and Cam both had big dreams of going to the NBA. They were really like-minded in their aspirations at the time, and they were apparently like-minded academically as they both failed to move forward due to poor grades. Now Cam'ron was a certified bucket, an all-city, all-American point guard, and got several scholarship offers that he unfortunately didn't meet the GPA criteria for. Mase went on to attend State University in New York at Purchase after putting up an SAT score that was too low to get him into a Division I college. But after a while, he ultimately decided that basketball wasn't a realistic goal for him and music could be more of a fruitful endeavor. See, Mase would rap for fun on road trips with the basketball team or just casually while chilling around the neighborhood. Some of the homies he'd rap with early on were DMX and the Lox. It's crazy to think that so many of these legends in the making were just, coexisting with no idea of what the near future held in store, but I digress. People would actually point out that Mase could actually flow, but during the height of his hoop dreams, rap as an actual career didn't really seem feasible to him. But after giving it thought, he decided to drop out of college in his second year to pursue music full time. He began putting together demo tapes and performing at local venues. Cam'ron, on the other hand, didn't finish high school but was able to attend the Navarro Junior College in Texas. After a brief stint, he realized that school was ass and decided to move back to Harlem to sell drugs. Soon after, he decided to pursue a rap career as well. By 1993, Cam and Mase would link back up and join a collective formed by Big L called Children of the Corn. Other group members included Bloodshed, Cam's cousin, Six Figure Digger, and Herb McGruff. They were also managed by Dame Dash for a short time, but during their run, COC was able to crank out a couple dozen songs and performed here and there, but unfortunately they never got a deal. Also unfortunately, by 1997 the group disbanded after the untimely passing of Bloodshed, who lost his life in a car accident. Now the remaining members did have a bit of clout and notoriety in the underground and went on to take whatever momentum they had to pursue solo careers. By this time, Mase, by way of his sister Stacyn, was introduced to Kuda Love, and Kuda managed Biggie at the time and would end up bringing Mase to a hip-hop convention being hosted in Atlanta, Georgia. And with Diddy in attendance, it didn't take long for he and Mase to chop it up. They talked for a while and Mase rapped for him, and next thing you know, Mase was signing a $250,000 deal with Bad Boy and changing his name from Murder Mase to Mase officially for marketing reasons. Cam, on the other hand, was doing what he could to not feel left behind by his homie. But thanks to the homie, he'd eventually be introduced to someone who would change his career forever. In 1997, Mase introduced Camron to Biggie, and Cam rapped for Biggie for almost an hour and left him so impressed that he introduced him to Un Rivera, which ultimately led to Camron signing a deal with Entertainment under Epic Records. Cam would also begin a ghostwriting career, with one of his most notable contributions being Lil Cease's verse on Crush on You. So great, both guys have deals and are working on their respective careers. Where exactly does this begin to get rocky? Well, technically it already has. For a bit more backstory, when they were younger, Cam used to give Mase clothes and shoes to wear because Mase didn't really have much money. When Mase started to blow up, his contributions were trying to school others on the game and introducing them to certain people. And in the clip playing right now, Mase even introduced Camron to the world when he was on an episode of Rap City. But tension began to surface when money became the conversation. Mase was really good at flexing, and yet some of his crew was broke and struggling. They were wondering when some of that money would come their way. Mase would later, and I mean much later, explain that he didn't really have the money that people thought he had at the time. And with him being signed to Diddy, I wouldn't doubt that for a second. Another rift was formed between him and Camron in 1998 because Mase attempted to charge Cam $50,000 to be in the video for Horse and Carriage, his lead single from his debut album Confessions of Fire. At the time, Cam took this as a sign that Mase was getting a little bit too big-headed, and he figured that he should do it for free since they were close friends. From Mase's perspective, it was just business, and he wanted both of them to snag every dollar that they could from the industry. Ultimately, Cam proceeded to do the video without him, but he did have a body double in there. But now it's time for a bit of a tone shift. See, there's a darker note to briefly go over, and this is a story that involves smashing the mother of someone's kids, the deaths of friends and former acquaintances, and Mase's eventual yet temporary retirement from the industry due to its wickedness. To summarize, Mase was placed at the center of the blame for the deaths of two men who went by the names of Baby Maine and Pop Lottie. Now, both men were drug dealers who had clout in the streets, and both men had beef with one another before anything with Mase surfaced. But let's start with Maine. As the story goes, he and Mase were friends during Mase's come up in the 90s, and after some time passed, Mase eventually got into an intimate situation with the mother of Maine's kids, and he was eventually caught at her house. Now, Mase didn't know that she was off limits and she was an ex, but either way he was in a bad spot and called Cam to bail him out. So Camron and his crew did come to the rescue and got Mase out of that jam, and feeling really generous, Mase gave Cam $100 for the help. Needless to say, Killer was not pleased, and he actually spoke on this situation in a song called It's Killer from his 2017 mixtape The Program.
The Mase call, said, yo, I'm stuck inside some bitch's house. I'm waiting at the door. Could I hurry up and get him out? What's the address? Homie said Kingsbridge. That was great, I had some niggas right on Bainbridge. Yeah, we play, but believe it ain't no game, kid. Hopped off the elevator, aiming at that lame lid. I ain't give a damn, yeah, Kim, I was gun-ho. Got this nigga home and he passed me $100.
Mase would give his take on things as well in the song Jealous Guys off of his Harlem World album.
Now would you be mad if I gave back your girl? Or would it still be a problem with the entire Harlem world? At first you were saying that she was your ex, but you was ready to kill me when you found out we had sex.
Brody, look, niggas be wildin'.
But unfortunately, he was playing with fire. See, Baby Mane was furious and he wanted payback. Here's where Pop Lottie enters the picture again. Now, as mentioned, Lottie was another drug dealer and also a member of Mase's crew. He had previously had his face slashed by Mane over an unpaid debt that was owed to one of his bros. Now, being on the warpath, Mane snatched the chain off of another one of Mase's associates by the name of Cardan, and in retaliation, Lottie stole the car of one of Mane's guys. Pop Lottie would then taunt Baby Mane and tell him to come get the car if he actually wanted it. And then when Mane showed up, Lottie killed him. A short year after that, Lottie himself was killed, and after seeing everything that transpired, Mase would then announce his retirement from rap. So Mase wound up taking a 5-year hiatus from hip-hop, but during that time, Camron would ascend to new heights. The Dipset movement was going crazy during the early to mid 2000s, and anyone who knew me back then could tell you that I was a huge Dipset fan. But after taking time away and becoming a pastor, Mase made a comeback, returning with the song Welcome Back and an album sharing the name, donning a new and clean-cut image, though his image was never particularly dirty with the shiny suits and shit. Mase received a pretty warm reception in his return. The album, however, received mixed to poor reviews, but still sold over 180,000 copies in the first week. So things looked good for a moment, but everyone wasn't too thrilled to see his return. Camron and Jim Jones were called into Hot 97 while Mase was there for an interview. They'd confront him about why he left Harlem and other discrepancies like mentioning names in his book.
The only thing you did, yes, you took me to Big House and you broke out on everybody and left, and that's what you're going to do again. I'm not stupid, like, that's what you do. You feel me? So I'm just saying, like, just tell the truth. If you're going to talk about something, tell the truth. Don't talk about 50,000 in Cancun and we's going to split it and you said this is business. None of that occurred. When you left, we did what we had to do. We got it popped. You come back and say what you want to say and lie about it. Like, you talk about business. Where's the publisher for putting people's name in the book?
There were attacks on records like Taking the Church from the Purple Haze album, and for over 13 years, Mase would take the high road and not clap back. However, everything changed in 2017. After Cam continued to mention Mase in interviews and after dropping the diss track that I played a moment ago, Mase shocked everyone when he finally responded with a legitimately scathing diss track called The Oracle. Look man, I can't even front, that one was actually pretty brutal. One of the better diss tracks to have ever come out, and it was from the least likely person. Go listen to it if you haven't. But Cam would respond with the track Dinner Time, and unfortunately for him, the court of public opinion had to hand him the L. But things quickly changed after this. Mase reached out to Camron and said that they can still be brothers if he wants, but Cam was kinda still being an asshole about the whole thing, but it started to come off as more of a friendly rivalry at this point. Now there was definitely petty barbs traded back and forth for a couple more years, but nothing really advanced between the guys until 2022. Mase sat down for an interview with $1 Million worth of game and opened up about the falling out with Cam and how he regretted letting things get to the point where someone he once looked at as a legitimate brother became a full-blown enemy. Although he may not have said it, Cam was actually pretty appreciative of this, and both men basically were at different points in their lives where they could admit that the issues were blown out of proportion, and that things could have been handled differently, but you know, that's why you live and you learn. If you're fortunate enough to keep living, then you always have the opportunity to change how things are conducted from this day moving forward. And the final push to reconcile was actually made by none other than Mase's sister Stacey, or at least she was there to record Mase and Cam on the phone squashing it, and she also threatened to swing on them both if they didn't end this feud that spanned for over 2 decades at this point.
Yo. Killer was good. Where's Mr. Petty at these days?
Near the end of 2022, Camron will begin teasing his newest platform, a sports talk show called It Is What It Is. According to him, many were reaching out to get him on TV and into podcasting, so he decided to fund his own platform to do things his way. And in his words, he wanted to bring Mase along as a way of paying him back for jumpstarting his career with that initial Biggie meeting that happened 25 years earlier. No one really knew what to expect from this, but what we got was completely raw,
Pause.
unfiltered, and actually good sports commentary. Remember, these guys were athletes first. They know enough to talk about the game. And the best part of all is that they aren't chained or restricted by networks who will force them to suppress who they really are. They say whatever they want, and the only time they or any of their guests really need to be mindful of what they're saying is if something potentially pause-worthy comes up. As of now, the show has entered its second season and they have over 300,000 subscribers on YouTube and have had some very big names make appearances. In fact, it's been so successful that they just signed a very lucrative 8-figure deal with Underdog Fantasy. So the only way to go is up. And with that said, I'll wrap this up right here. How do you guys feel about this story? Me personally, I was a fan of Mase during his initial run. I always thought he was pretty dope. And as mentioned earlier, I was a huge fan of Cam and Dipset during their heights as well. So it's actually really good to see them both patch things up and win. Unfortunately, we don't always have the chance to make things right with people, so when it does happen, it's actually really dope to see. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and by the way, there's a shit ton of y'all who watch the content who aren't subscribed, so fuck with me.